Greetings, traveler. I'm SnapJelly, and I rewatched Troy recently, and one thing got my attention. This thing. And another one. Kinda like an ancient Superman punch, if you will. So this raised the question. Jumping attacks. They have been around for forever in all kinds of media, but would they really work? Considering, of course, you're not Achilles. Like, if you're a super swordsman that never makes any mistakes, then by all means do whatever the heck you want. But if you're just an ordinary swordsman, like a skilled swordsman, but a normal one, does jumping help you in any way? So I thought about this. I thought about this for as long and as hard as my tiny brain allows, and I came up with that, in all honesty, it's not as bad as I originally anticipated. Well, it's still not good. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing it. Well, I've seen some people do it, like in reenactment and stuff. I've seen people do like little hibbity hops. But, you know, they're tiny little jumps. They're not like giant leaps of strength. But, you know, there are some downsides to it, why I wouldn't recommend it. But it's not as bad as I would say that spinning is, for example. So let's just analyze this. First off, looking at its attacking capabilities, right? Stabbing from jumping position. Yeah, well, I could see it work. There are some theories about how leaping in specific ways can amplify power, so you can stab with more force. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm willing to accept it. You know, I could see it work. I dig it. Although, I do have to say that I don't think that this would actually actively help you in any way. I still don't think, because of course, piercing armor is incredibly difficult, and if you want to do that effectively, then you're gonna have to use an awful lot of power. So I don't know if that will be enough, but still, it's a normal stab. Then there's also the idea of angle, like getting your opponent by surprise because you're stabbing from an angle higher. Well, this kind of works if you jump and also raise your spear, in the case of Achilles, incredibly high in order to stab. But if you jump and you stab at a normal angle, it really doesn't work because, well, considering you can also hold a spear overhand like this, where you can't even see it, like that, right, to stab, or you can just hold it this way, and you can stab from downwards position or from upwards position like that. Yeah, human doesn't jump that high, so angle might work, but I would also say that if your opponent really doesn't see that coming, you're kind of telegraphing your attack by jumping into the air. So you could fairly easily see it coming. So that might work, but I'm not really gonna give it a point because of that. It's more like a side benefit because, in all honesty, every attack is supposed to come from an angle that your opponent didn't suspect. Because if he did expect it, then he would block it. So I don't know if you can really count that. Then there's also the concept of body weight. Yes, people say that jumping, you know, because you put the weight of your body behind the force of your spear or whatever, and that might help piercing armor or something like that. Yeah, I don't really agree with that either, because human weight, just the weight of a human body, that's not enough to be able to break armor. If you really want to break armor, you need the momentum, right? You need to strike like that. The moment of impact is what pierces the armor, or it's not going to go through. And the thing that helps you generate power when falling is acceleration, right? As you fall for a longer period of time, you fall faster and faster and faster until you reach terminal velocity, which is the fastest that you could possibly fall, and then you won't fall any far faster, but you'll fall incredibly fast. Now, because a human doesn't jump that high, we don't accelerate that much. So there's not much power increase because of jumping, if any. So human weight, unless you're incredibly obese, I don't think it's really gonna help you in that aspect. However, I gotta say though, that to me, it's, in all honesty, just looking at the attacking part, right? It just seems like a normal attack, which might sound degrading, but in all honesty it's not. Because a normal attack is still a good attack. If you can land it, then it works. And you don't need that much penetration in order to pierce somebody's internal organs. You want to get that internal bleeding going on. So an attack like that, by jumping in the air and stabbing, if you can land it, if you can do it precise, right, because that might also be harder. Jumping in the air and stabbing like a specific point might be more difficult than from standing position, but if you can do it, I could see it work from the attacking perspective. However, the defending perspective is a little bit different. Because I was thinking that when you're up in the air, when you're airborne, you can't really correct yourself as well as you can when you're on the ground. You see, my point is that when you're on the ground, when you're sturdy, you know, you put an awful lot of force on your feet. Nah, that's not really the right way to put it. But how do you explain that? Footwork is important. Let's just say that first off. And in the air, there's no footwork whatsoever. So there's no way that you can correct yourself. And footwork is half the work, if not more, actually. So when you're on the ground and your opponent does something that you don't expect, then it's quite easy for you to move according to that and still defend yourself. But when you're in the air, you can't do anything. You can only react to anything your opponent does as soon as you're on the ground again. So that might put you in danger. Now, I was wondering about the ability to defend yourself actively while in the air. So what I did was I grabbed a dumbbell that is 5 kilos, and I jumped and tried to move it in order to kind of represent a shield, like in the air, if you could still move your shield in the air. And the results were kind of unimpressive, really. It was kind of what I expected. What happened was, yes, I could move the dumbbell while in the air, although I did notice it was a little bit harder. But as I moved the dumbbell to the right, my body kind of moved to the left. It wasn't a significant amount. I didn't, throw myself off like that, but, I wiggled a little bit. And so it's difficult to balance yourself, right? Especially if you also use a spear like Achilles is. Then, spears are still incredibly light and nimble, but they're very long and that limits you in certain ways. So using those things in the air, it's quite easy to throw yourself off balance. So, is this significant? Well, yes, I think it is. And as an example, I'm going to use Skallagrim. You've probably heard of the guy. In March 2015, Skallagrim hurt his knee in a sparring accident. He twisted his knee. Now, just a couple days ago, actually, Skallagrim posted an update video about his injuries, but not about his knee, but about a car accident that he's been in quite a while ago, and how he's recovering. And in that video, he mentioned that his knee injury actually hurts him more, and he's got it on film, so I'm just going to show some clips of his videos. If you want to get the full story, you can click the videos, links in the description below, you can see it for yourself. But for now, just watch this, right? This is what happened when he twisted his knee.
And, well, this is what happened. Oh! It makes me kind of sick to watch this because it helps me remember the pain, and oh man, that was bad. I was in a lot of pain. Lately I've had another setback because ironically, it's really weird, where you would think, okay, I got hit by a car, that's pretty bad, chronic injury, that's to be expected. But still, the worst thing I'm dealing with is the chronic knee injury that I got in 2015, which is, that was the one time I got injured in sparring, at the time before I joined Blood Iron, when we were just a bunch of guys trying to figure out sword fighting based on the manuals.
So what happened when he twisted his knee? Well, it's a normal tackle. It's a really basic grappling move. You just put your leg behind your opponent's leg behind his knee, and you throw him over, and that apparently twisted Skallagrim's knee so bad that still now, 2 years later, that knee is still fucked up and he still feels it. It still bothers him a lot. Way more than getting hit by a car did, which also left permanent damage, might I add. So, just keeping that in mind, of course you can't really count on it, because of course it's an accident and there are all kinds of things that can go wrong all the time, and there's all kinds of ways that this injury for Skallagrim specifically could have been prevented, but it happened, and I still want to take that into account. Because what happened in Skallagrim's case is just, in all honesty, is just, he lost his footing. He stepped back. You can hardly even see it. Did you see what went wrong during that little clip that I just showed you? He just, he got grappled and he apparently twisted his knee. God knows what happened. And there you go. He's down now. 2 years later, it still bothers him. Now, you want to take that risk leaping in the air with full equipment? just taking a look at that. Of course, if you know that you could do it perfectly, then who am I to stop you? By all means do it. But I just have to say that I don't think that leaping in the air like that really has enough benefits for you to be able to kind of risk it. Because even if you're the best swordsman in the world, you can still hurt yourself. Like, just thinking about all the times that I've sprained my ankle just by walking normally. Yeah, leaping in the air, carrying a shield and a spear, that's kind of a risk that I wouldn't take. But it's up to you. If you want to, you can do it. So it's a risk. It's just a risk. That's what I want to emphasize. And you might be able to do it if you can do it successfully, and you might be able to hit your opponent off guard, and that could work, and it looks pretty cool as well, and that's a plus in my mind. So you could do it. But you be careful, please. Just people, be careful, please. So is this bad? I would say no. It's not really bad. If you're confident enough, you could pull this off. So by all means, if you feel like it, jump in the air and stab your opponent while jumping in the air. Look cool while you're doing it. Yeah, it could work. I can see it work. It is still dangerous though, and I want you guys to keep that in mind. So, conclusion. Bad, no. Good, no. Dangerous, potentially. That's what I have to say about it. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. You obviously love my face, so you might as well subscribe. And if you want to see more of my face, you might as well like my Facebook page and my Twitter as well. Links are in the description below, and thank you for joining my quest, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye guys. Hand on the camera. When did I start doing that actually? I didn't do it in the beginning.